Hello, everybody, and welcome. My name's Tim Graham, and I am your host for today. Today, I've also got a fantastic guest, Corinne Bohan, who is the Managing Director of Image Property. Corinne, thanks so much for joining me. How are you?
No worries at all, Tim. Yeah, very well. Thanks. Great to be here.
You were telling me off camera that you don't have some lovely weather up in the Sunshine Coast at the moment.
No, I'm at our Mooloolaba office today, and unfortunately, like many days this year so far, it is raining on the sunny coast.
Yeah. So, look, I really appreciate you taking the time to have a chat with us today. Image Property is a multi-award-winning business. You've won the Property Management Business of the Year 4 times in a row. Is that right?
Yes, that's the RateMyAgent one, which we put a lot of stock in that one because it's based purely on the reviews of our clients. So obviously serving our clients and doing what we say we're going to do matters more to us. The industry awards are really important as well, but when our clients are giving that kind of feedback, it's greatly appreciated. It means a lot.
Yeah, it sounds like you're doing something right.
Yeah.
And now your background in real estate dates back to 2016. Why don't we start there? Tell us a little bit about your journey.
Yeah, look, my journey is an interesting one. I sort of went in, Image Property was a family bought business, a very small rent roll, just over 10 years or 12 years ago now. My family, and I wasn't in it for a very long time, but then got introduced into it and was running an office over at West End there for a period of time on the property management department, and then moved into different roles. Was director of marketing for a while, which I loved, and sort of had already had a bit of experience in that area, which was really great getting into that side of things as well. And then as time would take, I've been across many things and have now ended up in the seat of managing director, which, yeah, I love. We talk about what is it that I do, and I think it's problems and projects is my definition. So if we're having a bit of a problem, I go there and try and work out how we can work through it. So things like COVID, things like recruitment have been big issues that we've worked through in recent years, and projects, if we're going to move into a new area, we're going to bring on a new source of revenue and so forth. Yeah, so it's exciting. Keeps me busy.
That's it. Well, listen, let's we're talking mainly around the property management side of the business today. Let me understand your numbers a little bit more. So how many have you got on the books at the moment?
Image Property managed just over 5,000 properties.
Yeah, wow.
Most 90% of those are more than 90% on the southeast Queensland. Here we range from as high up as Noosa all the way down to the Gold Coast. Now we are moving into the Gold Coast area and look to have a more substantial portfolio down there. But just over 4,000 is in Brisbane itself, in the Greater Brisbane area, and then 1,000, just under 1,000 up here on the sunny coast is where the majority of the properties lie. So, and then we've got a small little one in Victoria that's ticking along very nicely down there as well.
Yeah, very good.
The issues and the problems, they're doing an excellent job in Victoria. It has not been an easy environment in recent years down there since.
Well, obviously, Australia-wide, we've got the lowest vacancy rates in history. How is Image Property, I suppose, getting such great reviews when you're under, the sort of pressures that we've got here? I mean, obviously, it's a balancing act between, looking after your landlords and, still keeping your tenants happy, because you really have two lots of customers, don't you?
100%, definitely. We definitely have two lots, and we know that when we work really well with both parties, it's a much more successful outcome for everyone. It's a much more successful outcome for the landlord, for the tenants, and for our team to have those relationships that work really well together. The vacancy levels are low. With that comes some different issues that we face. So we've got across Brisbane, now vacancy is still sitting under that 1% in the Greater Brisbane area. There is pockets in amongst that we are seeing higher than vacancy rates in. Sunshine Coast just has never, I don't think it's got back over that 1% since COVID. Since everyone discovered, everyone seemed to go, oh my gosh, there's this amazing.
They all love the rain, Corinne.
Yeah. I think, they've been missold recently.
Yeah, that's it.
But yeah, look, with the lower vacancy rates, obviously the challenges that come with that presented there, like you don't want to see housing security the way it is currently in Southeast Queensland and in other places around Australia. In saying that, we have a lot more break leases happening too, which is different for us. People are a little bit scared of saying, hey, I will be leaving my lease at the end of the year. So therefore they're waiting until they've secured another one to break a lease. So we're finding that that's a much bigger part of our team's workflow is the break lease situation. The rents and affordability is now becoming a big part of our tenant selection. So as a process here at Image, we're always looking to ensure when we're approving a tenant that the rental income is no more than 30% of their annual income, because we feel that that allows a comfortable affordability to be able to pay all the other things that come up in life without, falling into arrears on your rent. With the way rents are going, that has become harder and harder in some situations to find people where the annual rent is less than 30% of their annual income. So I see that being a continuing issue.
Yeah. So there's a couple of things in there that I'd like to dig into a little bit more. So the first one is on the vacancy rates where they're a little bit higher. Are you seeing that there's more vacancy rates in houses or in the unit market? Because what we're seeing around, trends around Australia is, in terms of growth, units are actually outperforming houses and becoming more popular in a lot of locations. Are you seeing the same in rents?
Yeah, look, definitely the growth in units, I think over the annual has been 10% rental growth, or just above 10% in units in Brisbane. Houses is less than that, it's around the 7%. Units are becoming a much more enticing option for people who cannot afford a house. So not that they wouldn't love to have lived in a house with a big backyard and all the rest of it, but units are now a much more affordable option for those people. So yeah, the unit growth and also unit vacancy, getting leasing units fast is much easier. We're having great success with units and houses, but we know that the units are going very, very quickly and they've got a large demand. It's funny, from a father who was very big in property, would have never said or suggested to purchase in the unit market, but now looking at what the growth has been, some great returns to be achieved on the units in both your rental yields and your capital growth in the recent times in Brisbane.
I think it's a really difficult paradigm for people to get their head around, because for so long we've been sort of taught that if you want growth, you buy land because that's the only thing that goes up. But the landscape is changing and we're not bringing enough properties to market. I know you've recently been to a couple of events where the key stakeholders in the state government, federal government, were talking about the lack of supply coming to the market in Brisbane. It's becoming a real issue.
Supply continues.
So becoming a real issue. It's been a big issue for a long time, but there's no silver bullet.
There is definitely not, and approvals are still we just still do not see the things kicking into place that mean that we're going to be able to supply the market with what we need. Middle to higher density living is becoming much more of a norm too. I think with international migration, you're often getting people who don't expect to have a big house as well necessarily, and also with those international migration, you're getting a whole lot more people coming to the area who need to rent for at least the medium term. Like, you're not always coming here with a visa that for like citizenship.
Not only that, they're coming out of markets, overseas where they're used to living in apartment living. They won't, never dream of living in homes, houses.
No, actually seeing a big shift to more apartment living, I think, across the capitals.
There's so many different cohorts that are choosing to live that way. It's a lifestyle choice. It's a safety choice. You've got the downsizers that are willing to downsize on size but not on quality. So moving into a lot of these new apartment complexes that have got amazing amenity, fantastic security. It's there's so many different generations of people that are choosing to live this way now.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see some of the developments though. What you used to put, maybe there was a couple of hundred on the one development, now is going for much more high end, much bigger.
There's been a big flight to quality.
Yeah, a huge flight. So there's beautiful high end builds going in everywhere, but that's not really going to give us that extra supply that we're looking for. But yeah, the people who are looking to downsize and sell up the house and move into, these amazing apartments that are popping up everywhere, even here on the Sunshine Coast. Boys were just talking Mosaics, building one up here that looks some of the guys just went through the other day and they said it's just exceptional, like
they've done some
level and the standard. So those kind of developments are happening everywhere, but the developments that are going to increase the amount of stock that we have just don't seem to be as few and far between. They're very few and far between at the moment.
Yeah, I was talking to a developer in Maroochydore last week, and they're midway through a build, and they're just saying there's just no pipeline of approvals coming through at all.
No, well, I think there's so much infrastructure, renewable energies. There's so much work for developers at the moment. And residential property is probably one that's like, Just with the costs associated to the residential property that they've
Yeah,
incurred.
and builders
Like
are going towards the
it.
commercial projects.
That's it. It's just the return and the return is not necessarily as high as other project, and the risk is definitely higher in some situations. So I'm not sure that I see any massive change to the supply, which means for investors, it means that at the moment we get both the capital and the rental yield increase. And Southeast Queensland, with what's coming here, just where in August this year, we're opening the Queen's Wharf, which is that first major development, which I think will be a really big mark for us on the international map, to try and turn us into a bit of a destination city as opposed to just a stopover. And then we've got the Olympics, if we decide where and how we're hosting those.
That's it.
They're definitely happening. We just can't.
We just don't know how big the stadiums are going to be.
Just don't know if we're sending you to Nathan or if we're sending you in the middle of the city. So, but no, I think there's huge opportunities in Southeast Queensland, definitely.
That's it. Okay, so coming back to the rental growth. So how do you manage that from, obviously you've got your landlord to protect, and, let's face it, everyone likes to paint this picture of a landlord who's got 10 plus properties, and it really just isn't the case, isn't it? So is it rather? So you've got these tenants on one hand that are saying, listen, I can't afford for the rent to continue to go up. And you've got a landlord who since 2022 has had, I think the RBA's met 21 times and increased 13 times. So it is a balancing act to try to keep both parties happy. How do you train your staff and have the conversations with both sides of the party?
Yeah, definitely. And look, it's a big thing that we've put a lot of training into in recent years, because if we were talking 5 years ago, we were putting a lot of training into, okay, let's make sure we're getting price drops quickly because we're online for too long and the vacancy is now going to affect your annual return. So a very different conversation. We had a huge amount of property in one, particularly in West End years ago, where if you were doing a lease renewal, you knew so many new properties had been built that the tenant was asking for a reduction in rent, and you were agreeing because you knew otherwise you would be exposed to the market and vacant for weeks and weeks on end. So it is a different market, and we're bringing our team have always been trained, though. Anybody who is receiving coming up to the time of a lease renewal with our company, they get a full CMA. So we give them all the comparable properties that have been leased in the area. We give them the vacancy rate and we give them the stock levels. So it's not a matter of, hey, here's what we think. It is, here's the data, and what the data tells us we are able to do. So the transparency there for our landlords and for our tenants is really huge, because with the tenants, when they're looking around, they're seeing what actual comparable properties are achieving. They also know the cost of moving out of a property, the cost of moving back into a property. All of these disruptions are very costly to them, so they can make a very informed decision as well. So we're never just saying, hey, we're plucking a price out of nowhere and you can't actually see where we've got this from. And I think for the owners, then we talk with the owners, the value of a great tenant in place definitely has a financial value as well, and that needs to be factored in when we're renewing a property. So when we were going to market with an empty property, a completely vacant property, we'd be testing the market to achieve what we, the highest price we could. When we've got a tenant in place, you factor that in, definitely. And great tenants are definitely a financial gain for a landlord.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so coming back to the structure of Image and your team that you run with the property management department, what's the typical headcount that your property managers have in relation to properties? How many would they manage at a time?
So we're running as 1:95 properties at the moment, property staff ratio.
Quite low.
So well, the way we structure it is that we've got we've got people working in the areas that they're experts in. So if you have a property with us, you will ring and you'll get your property manager every time. You speak to one person, that property manager then has a team of people who they work with as well. So they've got, we've got sensor lights and I hadn't moved enough. They have a maintenance team. So that maintenance team help with anything that's sort of a little bit left of field in the maintenance. That's not just your run of the mill. That'll be the people who work with the trades and work with the owners to make sure the best outcome is achieved there. We've got a field service team. So they're the ones running around doing inspections and routines. Property manager still does some of those as well, but they're the ones who can be out and about and making sure we're getting a really efficient, thorough service to our clients. So it is great. We used to have a higher ratio. They used to be a few years ago, like 1:110 or something like that. It has dropped down, but I think for the increase in service and our attrition rate, like a percentage that we lose from mismanagement, it's definitely worth it. And also just to have our team working with a smaller group of owners that they can really know and understand what their investment journey looks like, what they're hoping to achieve with their property. We think the strength of those relationships it ends up in a much more successful journey, both for the investor and for our team. Like retaining our team and keeping a team, property management, everyone understands like there's a lot of transition in property management. People are very much used to people coming in and out. One of the
now, you've managed to circumnavigate that a bit. You've had really good retention in your team. Talk to us. How do you do that?
Yeah, look, it's been a big point of difference and we've really focused on it too. So one, you've got to make it a really appealing career. Like people want to be working in careers that provide opportunity, provide challenge, provide reward. And so we've looked to do that in every part. So training is a really integral part of our property management division. They train every month, train with industry experts. They train with communication coaching, lots of different things. They train all around the property market. And we incentivize our team too. So our team who are doing a great job and are getting accolades from their clients, who are being able to bring in new business, who are making sure when our clients sell, they sell with Image Property. That's a reflection that we've had a great relationship, because
absolutely.
The property management experience hasn't been great. They're not going to use us. So our team are incentivized with that, and it's worked really well. We've got a huge portion of our team who've been with us. We give an Apple Watch. Everyone gets an Apple Watch because we have a bit of a competition at the company about closing rings. So everyone gets an Apple Watch at 3 years, and then a flight for them and their partner to anywhere in the world at 5 years. And
amazing.
it's that nice, and that, oh wow, we just purchased 5 Apple Watches I think last month, and I'm like, wow. And then I know a bunch of flights to be purchased shortly as well. So it's a good thing. It's a great thing. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, culture in an property management team, it really comes out when you're dealing when you're talking to your customers. You can feel it, can't you? You know whether or not they're business proud, and it's incentives and things like that, and rewarding your staff that's going to keep them there long term, and they're going to look after your customers.
It's huge. When I look at I've been previous careers, like I was in education, I've been in other industries, and when you look at what a property manager does, the skill level, the communication level, the amount of
it's not for the faint-hearted.
and they're dealing with lots of people, and sometimes they're dealing with people in their most stressful times, people moving in, out of houses and so forth. So I think if you find a person who can manage a good sized portfolio and get a great outcome from the clients, I think in that you've got a very skilled individual. So yeah, I think the sentiment of our team, we enjoy what we do, and we really push and drive to do it well. So we take on the feedback when we're not doing it well, and we look to correct. You're never going to get it always right, but I think we've got a team with a very high standard, which is great.
So the award that you won the last 4 years in a row is a national award. Tell me, is it these things that you've just been talking about in the way of rewards and constant training? Is that what sets you apart? Is that what you would put it down to, that it's made Image Property so successful in this space? I think
definitely that is an element of it. But years ago, Joel Davis is one of the founders of Image. He's was in it for a few years before he realized, like, you can have a great person, but if that person leaves, that's gone. So he has spent more time than I think anyone else in this country on property management process and process refinement, and making it possible that all of the things that have to be remembered can be remembered in a really, your day-to-day, here's what you've got to do. Here's what you've got to do. It's not just like, oh, did you remember? It is, everything is served up.
It's going to be process driven.
We're so process driven. So our team come in every day to a dashboard, and it tells them exactly what they've got to do, from their arrears to their listings, to their renewals, to their maintenance. It's all sitting there. Their numbers could be 5, they could be 20. Like, that's what we've got to get through in a day. And as management, the team jump in and help anyone who's like, okay, well, you've got quite a lot online at the moment, so we're going to help you with some other things. It makes it very visible, transparent, and it allows, if somebody is away, if somebody is sick, if somebody leaves us, we can still jump in and take that property from where it is today.
That's a sign of a very good business.
has to be scalable, otherwise.
Yeah.
And obviously, hence, we have grown from 300 to to over 5,000. So it is scalable. And I don't think at any point the client experience has dropped because of that scale.
Yeah. So, Corinne, I mean, I've worked in a lot of businesses that have got property management, but I must say, property management has been the afterthought, right? The difference between a business that's set up as property management and said, oh, we may as well sell as well because a lot of our clients are looking to sell and we're about to refer it off, versus somebody who's set up a business specifically for property management. Somebody who's set up a sales business and decided to do property management as a side. That really comes out in the wash, doesn't it? You can tell in the service that you're getting through property management, which leads me to the next point, which is that the first topic that tends to come up with most investors when it comes to property management, first question, what are your fees? And a lot of the time I find that that's a false economy. You really do get more than in any other part of the real estate industry. You really get what you pay for in property management. If you're getting the 5%, you're going to get the 5% return in service.
100%. It is, exactly what you're willing to pay for is what you're willing to accept. And yes, in real estate, obviously the sales is the nice, it's the more appealing side of it, I think. So we did, I think, just under 10 years with just property management, and then now have a great sales arm that is attached to it with over 95 agents now across our image properties. So it is excellent to be able to have both sides of it with the company, but the way we've gone about attracting business, holding business, and keeping business is on the experience you get in your property management side of it and the process-driven part. If we were to be able to offer that same service at the cost that other people are offering it at, it wouldn't be profitable or viable for us. And in lots of business, the property management side is sitting there and they know that one day they'll get the sale of it and that's what it'll be. But for us, we really do believe in the service that we're providing. And the difference between 5.5 and say 7.7, when you actually work out what that is annually, you're talking about, it's not a lot of money. It's not a lot of money, the difference, but I promise you, one poor letting experience, one poor piece of advice on how much you should be renewing your property for, or one poor maintenance situation, you've definitely paid more to the inferior service. So
that's something I know that you've been proactive in the maintenance side of things. So it's not just about collecting your rent and doing your inspections and making sure the property's clean and undamaged. It's monitoring maintenance and ensuring that the landlords are aware of things that need upkeep, because otherwise, if you put those things off, inevitably it's going to cost you a lot more money in the long run.
Definitely. And look, we've got a portfolio full of professional investors. They understand that the upkeep of the property is vital to their investment return as well. And so our job as property managers is to maintain the asset and maximize the return. That's it. That's what we do. So maintaining the asset, we've got to be proactive about that, not just reactive. We know that Queensland's changing legislation. There's minimum housing standards have come in. The final part of that is in October this year. So we know that we need to be advising owners on what those proactive steps that they can do to ensure that they're protected from tenant breaches or tenants doing their own repairs, which would then have to be paid at the cost of the owner. So we're always providing that advice. We also, for our maintenance side of the business, do an asset register. So when we bring on your property, we're registering your assets so that we can be explaining to you how old they are in terms of depreciation, in terms of what you can write off, in terms of when it's time to get new ones and when we can expect that we need to replace them altogether. So I think it's a lot, just managing the maintenance of my own personal house is a lot. I wish that my team would do it for me. But I think being as proactive as you can, and it's an investment. Being a professional investor, you want that kind of service. You want that advice and you want that information given to you.
Well, I think that's a pretty good place to wrap up. Tell me, if people want to reach out to you, what's the best way to do that?
Well, look, just reach out to imageproperty.com.au. Corinne Bohan, obviously Managing Director, always happy to speak to any investors personally as well.
Very good. Well, I'm sure after people have had a good listen to this, if they've got properties in Queensland, there's a good chance that you'll be hearing from them, because I certainly will be keeping you guys in mind for some future investments up there. Thank you again for joining us, Corinne. I guess we'll be seeing you at the Pippa Awards for Excellence later in the month.
Yes.
So I look forward to sharing a champagne then.
Definitely. Good to see you.
Thanks, Corinne.
Thanks.
Thanks, everybody. Chat soon.